And without further ado, I would love to introduce Oscar. Handing it over to you.
Thank you, Angelica. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, or maybe good night. I'm looking at the chat. We have people from all over. We have Chingonas from all over the world. Okay, it's not just the San Francisco Bay Area, which is where I'm from, located. So hello, everyone. All right. So folks, I am very, very excited to share with you some 5 tips to be Chingona on LinkedIn. First of all, let me just tell you something, okay? I am not here to tell you how to be a Chingona. In fact, I would be the first one to sit down, spit my gun out, and listen to you on how to kick butt, be badass out there. Because, gosh, when I look at my mom and, my dad, and, may they rest in peace, they passed away. But quite frankly, I mean, my mom put up with a lot of my dad's crap, okay? And she was able to multitask in so many different ways that I am in awe of the Chingona my mother was. So the other thing too, I'm also not going to be here mansplaining things or anything like that. What I am going to do is I'm going to share with you some tips that I use and that I have trained other people to use that gives you some results to really, really be effective and productive on LinkedIn. So here's the agenda. Okay, so remember I told you 5 tips. So tip number 1, I'm going to be talking about the value of our identity. How can we showcase that on LinkedIn? Number 2, I oftentimes get asked, Oscar, I don't have time to be being on social media, LinkedIn, and all that type of stuff. And listen, I get it, okay? So I'm going to talk about how to be productive, not just active, on LinkedIn, but how to be productive. And quite frankly, if you spend about 10 minutes a day, that is like awesome, okay? Number 3, I'm going to talk about how to brag about ourselves, but do it in the way that our parents taught us how to be humble too as well. And I call it the boomerang pose. Number 4, right? Chisme. Hey, count me in, okay? Like, I love chisme. So I'm going to be talking about how to spread some chisme here, but positive chisme. And then I'm going to end it with the power of vulnerability. Those are going to be the 5 tips. We will have a free resource to provide you. And then also I'm going to leave plenty of time for Q&A. Before we begin, I have 2 questions for you. Number 1 question is, what is your definition of Chingona? Part of the reason why I asked this question is because in Mexico, all right, and many other Latin American countries, the word Chingona has a negative connotation, kind of vulgar. But in the US, right, Latinas, you have embraced and redefining what Chingona means, i.e. badass. And so I'm curious, okay? Drop it in the chat here. I want to see what your definition of Chingona is. Badass, powerful, yes. Oh my God, well, you guys are going super fast. Resiliency, powerful, determined. To me, Chingona means being fearless and badass. Una mujer empoderada, that is a multitasker, elevating, yeah, powerful boss. Being unafraid to show your authenticity. Yep, warrior, powerful multitasker, and is willing to go against the odds, fearless, determined. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Standing up with other women. These are all amazing definitions. And of course, as we can see, there's some people, right, that we've heard this word as a negative connotation. Others, I'm like, I don't really know what Chingona is. So let me sign up for this webinar and find out. Next question. Second question is, name someone you believe is a Chingona. Drop a name here in the chat. My mother, mi mamá, yes. Grandma, yes, yes. Mi hermana, AOC, yep. Women before me, yep. All the women in my family, Michelle Obama, Sotomayor, myself, yes. Me, life has served me some, oh, sorry, I didn't miss it. There's a lot of chat going on here. Folks, as you can see again, words are very powerful, and we could take some of these words that tend to have a negative connotation and use it as a form of empowering. And the other thing too is, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later here, is that in our own family tree, there are many Chingonas, right? And we don't have to go very far. All you need to do is look in the mirror, because that is the number one chingona out there. All right. So let's get into it, folks. The first tip to be chingona on LinkedIn is what I call valuing our identity, right? Who we are, where we come from. And what is one of the first ways that we can do this? It's in our headline. Right underneath our name is a very valuable piece of real estate that LinkedIn has. What you do is make sure that you take advantage of this headline. First of all, LinkedIn is a keyword-driven platform like the algorithm. So it's a combination of some science with some art in terms of the keywords that you put in your headline. Obviously, using myself as an example. So I'm the CEO, but I refer to myself as Chief Empowerment Officer of my own company. But I put CEO up there. Why? Because most likely you're going to search for an executive, put in CEO versus Chief Empowerment Officer. So I have CEO up there. But next, if you notice, I say introvert turned international speaker. I see a lot of people that put keynote speaker, TEDx speaker, or just simply speaker. Those are good keywords to put up there. But what I have chosen to do is share part of my journey, part of my vulnerability, and put in a little short phrase that says introvert turned international speaker. I still have the word speaker there. So, if you're searching for a keynote speaker, the keyword there for the algorithm is speaker. But the fact that I put introvert turned international speaker, that is part of the art that I say, because when people read it, you'd be surprised how oftentimes people ask me, like, Oscar, how can it be that you could be an introvert and be a speaker? Yes, it is true. Okay. Go talk to my mother. I mean, growing up, my mother always says, "Ay, Oscar es como su tío Roberto. He's just like his Uncle Robert, bien reservado, very shy, very quiet, right?" Okay. So again, this is a very important area. One of the things that I recommend that you don't do, because I see this oftentimes on profiles, is just putting your job title. Or if you don't put anything, LinkedIn automatically takes your most current or your last position, whatever that title is, and puts it up there. Add some flavor, folks. Okay, there's a reason why we have the word in Espanol called sazon, right? Like, put some sazon in your headline. Google some keywords for job descriptions, and then look at what else can I add, a little bit of twist, a little flavor that separates me from the masses, but still lets people know what it is that I do. Okay, and next key area is our about section. This is the area where LinkedIn gives us the opportunity to tell our career journey story. On the bottom right, you see 3 questions that I encourage you to answer. Number 1 is, who are you? By that I mean, what are some of your personality traits? Number 2, what do you do in terms of your job, your work? And then the last question that's also very important is why? Why do you do what you do? Now, I do a complete different talk on professional branding where I really get into the why, but let me just give you the 2 types of why and which of those 2 to include here. There's the personal why, of why you do what you do. So in my case, the reason why I do what I do, and I'm doing it for free, this webinar, is because I love helping other people dream bigger. I love inspiring them, and I love serving them. I love helping them. That's on a personal level, but like almost all of you, you don't give a rip about that, okay? You're just kind of like, good for you, Oscar, okay? But the why of what's in it for you is I empower you so opportunities come to you. That's the why that I want you to make sure to include. You can include the personal why too, but many people only focus on the personal. I want you to also include the why, what's in it for your industry, your employer, or others. Also, I encourage you to write your about section in the first person. Why? Because when people read your about section, make them feel like you guys are having a coffee and they ask you the question, so Angelica, tell me about yourself. What do you do? You don't answer like if you were asked, Oscar, tell me about yourself. What do you do? I'm not like, well, Oscar Garcia does this and that. I mean, if I spoke like that, you'd be like, this dude is weird. Okay, so first person, it personalize it. Add some of your vulnerability, folks. If you notice, like in the second or third sentence in there, in my case, I say, in the US, I'm too Mexican. In Mexico, I'm too gringo. Over time, I learned that what is important is what I tell myself. Like, folks, many people treat LinkedIn like this stuffy professional platform. And I'm also not saying to treat it like Facebook either, okay? But here is, I'm sharing part of my own personal journey, my own personal experience of being Mexican American, right? And I put it right there, boom, all right, on my about section. Folks, pónganle un poco de corazón, put a little bit of heart in your about section, okay? Next, let's talk about activity versus productivity. So folks, even for me, that I'm a power user, okay, on LinkedIn, I spend about 90 minutes a day, about an hour and a half a day on LinkedIn. Some of you, when you compare that, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to spend an hour and a half on LinkedIn. Of course not, because that's not your job. Take whatever job it is that you do. And I only performed an hour and a half worth of work. And I went to my boss. And I'm like, okay, bossy poo, pay me for 8 hours. You're like, dude, you're fired, right? So no, okay. I spend very little compared to what a regular job. But in your case, folks, like I mentioned earlier, about 10 minutes a day is very healthy time to spend. What is one of the activities, things that you can do in order to be productive on LinkedIn? Follow what I call the rule of 25. The rule of 25 says, look for posts that have at least 25, the little emojis, thumbs up, heart, support, whatever emojis that LinkedIn has, and that at least have 5 comments. And I just actually this morning, I went through my feed and I took a screenshot of this example. So Monique and I are connected. As you can see, she's a first degree connection. And she writes this post here. She's a recruiter. And then down below, when I took a screenshot, she had 72 people that had done the thumbs up and 9 comments. So maybe this is a post that I'm like, you know what? I'm going to comment because number one, it's in the area of my brand, recruiting, career development, et cetera, and so forth. I just don't randomly, any post that has these numbers. But I go in there and what I'll do is I'll make a comment. What happens when I make that comment, all 72 people plus the 9 people that commented get alerted that I commented. And what that does is that sometimes that leads to then people checking out my profile, which is another reason why you need to have a complete profile. Some of those people send me an invitation to connect. Some of those people say to me, I can't believe, Oscar, you're an introvert turned speaker. How is that? In other words, it's an opportunity to start building and nourishing relationships. And folks, I'm going to tell you something. As an introvert myself, I'd rather have, people reach out to me versus me reaching out to people to connecting. This is what I mean in terms of being productive, strategic in your activity at LinkedIn. And like I said, following the rule of 25-5. Okay, next, let's talk about posts, okay? And how to humbly brag about ourselves. So one of the things that I see a lot on LinkedIn, and usually tends to be from people that speak or go to some event or on a panel or something like that. I see posts where people's like, I'm honored that I spoke at whatever conference. Listen, I'm going to tell you something, okay? I am of the mindset that what I post is of value to you. Me posting that I'm honored to do this webinar is of no value to you. Me seeing your post that you are honored that you spoke at whatever conference is of zero value to me. You should be honored, okay? You should be honored. Instead, do what I call the boomerang post or the boomerang approach. Let me share with you an example of what I did. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I was invited to do a talk for Wells Fargo for their sales folks. And this is what I wrote afterwards. I said, 45 years ago, a family and their 5-year-old boy arrived in Mountain View from Mexico. Like most families trying to settle in, they needed to open a bank account. They went to downtown Mountain View and walked into the first bank, only to leave because no one spoke Spanish. They went to a second bank, and again, no one was able to help them. Feeling almost disillusioned and nearing the end of Castro Street, they saw a Wells Fargo branch. They walked into Wells Fargo, which you see I tagged Wells Fargo, the company. Near the entrance was a young woman, graceful and with a friendly smile and warm demeanor, who spoke Spanish. She helped the couple open an account. That couple remained customers until their passing almost 3 years ago. Today, that 5-year-old boy stood before 100 plus friendly Wells Fargo team members to speak on how to connect, to reconnect. Thank you, Wells Fargo, for connecting with my family. And then I tagged the people that from Wells Fargo that invited me. Folks, do you see how this approach of highlighting my client, thanking my client, It's what I call that boomerang. I mean, if you throw the boomerang, if you know how to throw a boomerang, the boomerang goes away from you and then it comes back to you. So you're edifying others, but that edification is going to come back. So this is a structure here, folks. You tell a story. Thank you. And thank you again. Not this, I'm honored that I spoke at Wells Fargo. Pues claro. Of course I'm honored. But what does that do for you? Some of you probably right now, as you were reading the story, you're probably like your eyes are watering here, okay? Yes, I'm, ready to cry or something like that, emotional. This is what I talk about, folks, is this boomerang approach. Knock it off with your I'm honored stuff. All right, let's get into here spreading some chisme, all right? Some of us get a bad rap because they're like, guys, chismoso, Oscar, I don't know, maybe that's probably the Robles side of my family over here, okay? Because we love it. But I'm not here to talk about spreading some bad chisme. I'm talking about spreading positive chisme, all right? There's positive and there's negative. I'm here to talk about some positive chisme. There are 5 things that I encourage you to do to spread that positive chisme. Number 1, folks, can you write a recommendation for someone? Maybe it's a coworker and you're connected with them on LinkedIn. Maybe it's your boss. Maybe it's a client. Maybe it's someone you mentor. Why do you have to wait for them to ask you? What happened to somos hermanas, somos familia, right? Aren't we supposed to lift each other up? Imagine, I don't know, right now, there's 106 of you right now on here. Imagine if just 10% of you went on to, someone's here profile. I know some of you, there's multiple people from several companies or organizations. My gosh, folks, that's positive stuff. You're uplifting. Number 2, okay, you're like, well, Oscar, that takes too much time. Okay, let's just go something very simple. Can you endorse someone's skill? Can you click on LinkedIn? The other one, all right, is the birthday or anniversary. Now, one of the things that I love about LinkedIn, but it also kind of makes me chuckle, is LinkedIn, if you notice, really, really tries to automate and make life easy for us when we're doing something. It will suggest a comment. So for example, someone has a birthday or switches jobs and you go onto their profile, say to message, and automatically LinkedIn pops up a little message that says, congrats. That's a standard. Folks, you know what I do is I never do that standard congrats. It's either A, I will message the person. And actually, in case you don't know, you can actually send voice messages via the messenger on LinkedIn. Many people don't know that. But I will either send a voice message, or if I have their phone number, maybe text them or call them and be, hey, Angelica, just thinking of you. Just wanted to say happy birthday, feliz cumpleaños, que sabe qué, or something like that. Or, hey, I saw that you got a new job. Congratulations, man. It sounds like things are going well for you. The reason why I do that, folks, because I know it takes more time, is because here's the thing. I observe the masses and I do the opposite. Because nowadays, most of us have become so lazy and lost some of that human touch. Gosh, on Facebook, some of us now are reduced on birthdays to just 3 initials, HBD. I'm like, seriously, dude? That's where our relationship is now? HBD? You know what? By carajo, okay? You had just been uninvited from my fiesta, all right? Next, number 4, introductions. You know of an opportunity or you're talking to someone where maybe you feel like there's some kind of a connection, maybe similar interests or values and so forth. Folks, do an introduction. There are times when I've done introductions between people in my network. I'm like, hey, you know this information, this person needs it, I stop. And then lastly, the 5th way to spread positive chisme is what I call highlight someone, folks. Highlight someone in your network. And let me show you an example of this. Every Friday, I do what I call a thank God for my network. And I just randomly pick someone in my network and I take a screenshot on my phone and I say something positive about them and I tag them. Now, whether they respond back and say anything like gracias or whatever, I don't give a rip. I don't care because I don't do it for that. I do it again to highlight them. And part of the reason why I do it on Fridays, folks, is because what do most people say on Friday? Thank God it's Friday, TGIF. Folks, I'm going to tell you something, okay? You are now warned, okay? Don't ever send me a message, text, email, whatever that says TGIF, because I'm going to tell you something. I'm just as ticked off Friday as I am on Monday, and I'm just as fired up Monday as I am on Friday. I do not let the calendar dictate my attitude, okay? I'm gonna live to 150 years old. And when they bury me, I'm gonna be kicking in that grave for another 150 years because I'm fired up, folks, okay? Excited, all right? Love life, every day is a blessing. Some of us, I just got a text message from my cousin, her coworker who attended my cousin's 50th birthday party in September, just passed away, folks, 52 years old. There was something, had a metal taste in her mouth, her teeth were aching. She goes to the doctor, they do some scans, and they turned out that she had a tumor, and within a week, Dios se la llevó. Every day is a blessing, folks, okay? Some of us might not wake up tomorrow, so, this is what I do. All right, now let's talk about the power of vulnerability, folks. This is a tough one for many of us. In fact, the more professional, the más profesional, the más encorbatados, we are, the más cerrados, ay, Dios mío, ¿qué va a decir la gente? Right? That's one of the things we focus on. I want to share with you a short little video here. So turn up your... So yes, folks, I shared this video on LinkedIn, that stuffy platform that sometimes people say, I never post anything personal. I don't either. I just post stuff about my life and I speak from my heart. And see, some people were like, what, Oscar? You told people your mother was undocumented? Yes. Why? Because that's her story. That's my story. Thank God my mother didn't lean in crossing the border. She went all in. If you don't like it, sorry that I made you watch this video, okay? But if you don't like it, unfriend me, unfollow me from LinkedIn. Me vale. I don't care. This is my story, folks. Vulnerability is a strength. And see, here's the thing, folks. On one end, to the right of the spectrum, is the oversharing. This is what some of the younger generation and some folks do on other social media platforms. I broke up with my boyfriend, que sabe qué, que esto y esto otro. I don't care. And then on the far left, that's those of us typically 40 and older, right? We grew up with that generation. My dad, mijo, don't you dare tell anyone that I'm an alcoholic. Okay, Dad, I won't. Don't you dare air out your dirty laundry. Okay, I won't. But folks, there's a happy medium where we can be professionally authentic. And I also understand that it is a process. I'm not here to just jump off the cliff. It is a process to take some steps to share your vulnerability, folks. And to help you share your vulnerability is the 3 R's. Number one, folks, be real. Think of someone you highly admire and respect, and you listen to them speak, and they talk about the challenges that they went through, what are the lessons that they learned, and how did they overcome those challenges. I don't know about you, but I have a newfound respect for that person. I'm like, wow, if that person can go through what they've gone through, oh my gosh, I can too. I'm willing to bet that many of the people you listed as chingonas fall into this, right? Number two, be relatable, folks. We have 5 generations in the workforce today. Listen, I don't hang out with Latinos, Latinas, Latinx, Chicanos, Chicana, whatever the heck you want to call us, okay? I don't hang out with white people, and I don't hang out with young people, old people. I hang out with everyone. I go to the San Jose flea market, and then I go over to Los Gatos Hills con todos los ricos over there too and hang out. I have tequila and I have wine with cheese, okay? ¿Y qué? Right? Be relatable, folks. Some of you need to cross over. And then lastly, folks, be respectful. be real, relatable, and respectful. Let me show you an example here, what I mean in terms of being real, relatable, and respectful. That's my mother. And I recently posted this. You can see about 2 weeks ago, all right? I said, my mother, like Chingona, being a Chingona isn't by accident. We are enamored with the success of sports athletes, movie stars, founders, and CEOs. Yet we forget that in our own family tree, we have acres of diamonds. She wasn't a CEO, but she was an entrepreneur. She wasn't college educated, but she was intelligent. She wasn't a keynote speaker, but she motivated others. She wasn't salesperson of the year, but she could sell. She wasn't a leader, but she influenced others. She was a Chingona, badass. She is my mother. Some people won't talk about this about their parents, and I get it. I mean, there's stuff that happens too. I get it, okay? But some of you, if you do, it's on Facebook. Well, guess what? I posted it on LinkedIn. And yes, almost 8,400 views and a bunch of people commenting. And it's like, my mother's a badass too. My mother's a Chingona. Oh my gosh, Oscar, now I know what Chingona means. Great. There it is, folks. All right? Be real, relatable, and respectful. Final thoughts here. We're going to open up to some questions here. Folks, I want to leave you with this quote. Don't aim to impress others. Inspire them through your imperfections. Inspire them through your imperfections, folks. Also, this is, soy Mexicano, all right? So we're going to have a recalentado here. We're going to have a little bit of an after party, meaning there's a little bit more here that I want to share with you before we get into the Q&A here, okay, folks? Again, just want to remind you, I told you at the beginning that we're going to give you a free resource, okay? We're going to send this out. Angelica's going to send this out, and it's a key resources for Chingona. And whether you are la Chingona, la emprendedora, la influencer, la estudiante, PDF that's hyperlinked with some additional free resources. The only thing we ask is allow us, to add you to our email list. I guarantee you, folks, we do not send out porquerias on our email. Everything is of value, folks, okay? And you can unsubscribe whenever it is that you want, okay? So if you just want to get the free resource and unsubscribe, do it, okay? All right, some more resources too as well. Those of you, if your organization or company is looking for someone to do some culturally relevant underlying, okay, career leadership programs, that's what I do. I focus a lot on helping us embrace our journey and also valuing who we are, our identity, and again, the power of vulnerability. And we can send that some information out to you as well. All right, we're going to open it up to some Q&A here. And then one last thing, feel free to connect. In fact, I encourage you, share your LinkedIn URL here so you can network. This is also a part about building our community, strengthening our community. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, follow us on Instagram. I also have a podcast called Career Talk with OG. On the bottom left, if you're an introvert like myself, there's my email. If you want to go to the website first, ahí está también, okay? I'm going to turn it over to Angelica. By the way, folks, in case you haven't figured it out, okay, Angelica is my daughter. We're, father-daughter combo here. I don't see very many father-daughter combos on LinkedIn working together, so I'm actually very proud of this. She's already a Chingona. In fact, I learned a lot from her already, okay? So anyways.
Still got a lot to learn, but no, I'm just kidding. I'm going to drop in the chat real quick the link that Oscar was mentioning about go ahead and if you would like to join our email newsletter, I promise you, I make sure it is not boring. I do not like being spammed. So I sympathize. Maria asks, can you say how you searched for engagement for a post? I believe this is probably early on the 25-5 rule that you have.
Yeah, so great question. On LinkedIn, you can also do searches for hashtags. So for example, pick Latinx. So you can go into the search, type in hashtag Latinx, and you will see. In fact, let me see if I can share that part of my screen. Yeah. So on the upper left, if you type in hashtag Latinx, that's an example, you start seeing it, click on it. And this is one way that you can do. So one, you will see how many people are following the hashtag Latinx. In this case right now, almost 1,400 people on LinkedIn. One of the things you can do is click on the follow button right there. As you can see, it says following. That means I'm following it. And so now you can just scroll through this feed now. It just filtered your feed. And all the posts that you see here have the hashtag Latinx. I just scroll through here really quickly. And I'm like, okay, what catches my attention and so forth. right? It could be an opportunity to connect, follow an organization. Maybe like in this case, I see Manuel here. Here he's talking about, don't use the word Latinx. So, hey, maybe I draws my attention. I can go in there and comment strategically, like I mentioned. I can click on Manuel's profile and maybe I'm drawn to want to connect with him, and I will send him a personalized invitation. So this is one way that you can strategically find some content. The other way that you can do it is, if you notice on the right-hand side, upper right-hand side, it says LinkedIn News. You can click here to expand it, and LinkedIn curates some top news where people are engaging, et cetera, and so forth. So this is another way that you can potentially find some content here as well.
Awesome. Yes. So we have a question here from Jessica asking, what is one piece of advice you have received from someone that you carry with you to this day?
There's actually many, but one piece of advice is, even though I might feel that I'm not qualified for an opportunity, but I feel that it's a great opportunity to go after it. See, sometimes we limit ourselves, folks, from pursuing an opportunity because we feel we don't check off all the boxes. I've done 11 career transitions. One of the career transitions that I made was from tech to the CEO of Chamber of Commerce. My competition had 25 years of chamber experience. She was the interim chamber CEO, and the board loved her. And here comes ESL, Oscar Garcia, knucklehead Oscar Garcia, zero experience, didn't even know what a Chamber of Commerce did. And I got hired. And I had mixed emotions. I was excited because I'm like, ooh, yes. And then I was scared because I'm like, ay, Dios mío, ahora ya me chingué aquí here, and now I have to perform, right? And so that's one of the things that advice that I have received. And to this day, folks, trainings. 2 years ago, when we went into the pandemic, I did my very first, Angelica and I did our very first webinar. I was horrible. My good friend was on the webinar afterwards. We talked, and he says, Oscar, how do you think you did? I'm like, I don't know. I felt like I was nervous. He's like, yeah, dude, you sucked. I'm like, oh, geez. Thanks for being so brutally honest. But you know what, folks? I kept doing it. And today, and thank you, for those of you that are able to have your cameras, those of you that are not, listen, okay, I'm not talking to you here, okay? I'm not busting your chops. But today, honest to God, I can do the same presentation, speaking to the wall, just staring at it with the same energy, excitement, enthusiasm, because after 300 plus online webinars, damn right, I'm good at it.
Oh, you bring back such memories when you bring up the first webinar. I need to find it somewhere. It was really bad. But at least we grew. We grew from it. I can say that with confidence now. We're in a better place. Okay. Woo, more questions here. We do have someone here who is wondering, what would you suggest to someone looking to change industries, but not necessarily wanting to start all over from the bottom due to age?
Yeah. So this is a good one. You know what? Feel free to reach out to me as well. Happy to have a little more in-depth conversation, because I think there's more to this question, more information that I would need to really give a better answer. So I'm going to give you kind of a general answer right now. So, folks, first of all, is that, listen, this is my attitude. I'm at the end, actually a week from tomorrow, I'm going to be 53 years old. Listen, I use face cream, so it's kind of helping my crow's feet, and the wrinkles up here and all that type of stuff. Okay, I am not ashamed, okay, to say it. Okay, but here's the thing, folks. I have been in the workforce for 30 years. I've seen a lot. I've had situations where I literally walked out of the elevator coming back from lunch, and the CFO called me into the office and says, Oscar, sit down. Here's your paycheck. Adios. I'm like, all right. Right? Yeah, it's done. And so what am I trying to tell you? Folks, stop letting some other company shake your tree, tell you what to do, tell you what you are worth. Pal carajo, all right? There's a reason why all of you are chingonas. And a chingona does not allow a job and opportunity to tell you what to do. Now, I get it. We have bills and all that. Yes, I get that. But I just need one opportunity that matches my values, that values my experience at 53. Because you know what? I have way more experience, and no disrespect to the Gen Zs out there, but I have way more experience, like many of you, than younger. That just comes. So if a company doesn't value it, beat it. I'll go find another company out there. I just need one opportunity, okay? So you need to value yourself in this whole ageism. Does it exist? Yes, it does. It's horrible and we need to change it, okay? But I'm just talking about what I can control, what we can control, and that is how we value ourselves. Next, what I recommend that you do is also realize you're not starting over. You have X number of years of experience, all right? So you're not starting over. Change that mindset too as well. Now go out there and start doing some informational interviews. Start networking, start talking to people that are in the industry that you want to transition. Start learning about that industry. Start understanding how the pandemic has affected the company, the industry, the job. And then lastly, the third thing to do is start creating some kind of a content or a portfolio that starts showcasing your interest and your skill sets for what you want to do. Because today, folks, that's part of the way we showcase. It's not just coming up with the resume. Again, you go on to what I've done now, what we have done over almost 7 years. I have a ton of content out there that showcases my style, my experience, et cetera, and so forth. I have evidence, i.e. my portfolio. And so that's what I encourage you to do. And the last thing is, folks, quit panhandling for your next opportunity.
Yeah, you heard it here. Everything, yes. Stars, stars, stars. I do have one really, really quick last question here that someone mentioned early on. Oscar, will there be a part 2 to this Chingonanes party?
Yes, yes, yes. That's part of the reason why we said level 1, folks, because yes, I am thinking of doing a part 2 in May. Those of you that are introverts, you know that this is draining. Public speaking and talking to a camera, it's draining. And I have another webinar, like I said earlier, coming up right at the hour, okay? So it takes me a little bit of time to kind of get back up. But what I'm thinking here, and it's still to be determined, but I'm thinking here that the next topic will be on networking, how to network como una comadre. Because I think, yeah, I said to say because I think that is the whole building and nourishing relationships is very important for our career growth as an entrepreneur, whatever it is. And I don't care if you're early in your career or si ya eres un veterano, como yo, okay? It's important. So stay tuned, but there will be.
Yes, and I dropped the link again to our e-newsletter. That way you can stay notified for when part 2 is gonna come out, because we want to see all y'all's faces again. This was a great time. Amazing energy, amazing questions, and I'm happy to be surrounded by a whole bunch of chingonas, because believe it or not, the future starts and ends with us. So thank you, everyone. Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful rest of your week. Thank you for joining us. Okay, we really, really appreciate all of you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.